Hello everyone, I'm Michael, and today, I'm going to tell you a story. What's a hobby someone can have that is an immediate red flag? Story 1. It all started when an episode of 30 Rock inspired her to Google herself. She was amazed at how many details she found, and a little disturbed. She told all her friends and family the next chance she had. Everyone needed to know how much information about themselves that's just there for anyone to find on the internet. A few days later she thought, I'd better check up on my sister and make sure she doesn't have too much information on the internet. So she Googled deep into the night. Her sister was surprised by how much information she'd found. She decided then and there that she had better look up everyone she loved for their protection. Who knows what kind of creep could find this information? From there it snowballed. Googling everyone she loved and telling them about it took a week and a half. She had trouble sleeping the next night. Addiction had set in. Next, she looked up everyone she knew. She felt more and more powerful with every new person she investigated. She started seeing patterns and could predict many of the hobbies and habits of new people based on some of the first facts she found. She started testing this by hypothesizing about people on the street. That Amazon delivery driver looks like. He has 2 kids and a medium-sized dog. That woman buying zucchini probably drives a motorcycle on Sundays. She got better and better. Soon, she'd investigated everyone in her town. She knew who'd been to the waiter's wedding, and which of them were too drunk to remember much after the ceremony. She knew which kindergartner had shat himself last week. His uncle really shouldn't be posting that, but when she'd called him to tell him that he didn't take her words of advice, he just yelled at her. Some people were so ungrateful. That's when she started looking into the lives of people on the internet chosen at random. There are so many of them. Her work will never be done. Story 2. My email got hacked once a few years back. I got a notification that my phone number had been changed to such and such. I quickly wrote down the phone number and searched it in Facebook. I ended up staying up all night finding everything I could about this person, took screenshots for evidence, and sent them to his mother the next day. An hour later, I get a phone call from his mother. It's this kid, crying on the phone, apologizing. I like to think I made an impact on that kid's life. I might message him. Story 3. One of my peers, who had a successful career in the medical industry, started playing poker religiously a couple years ago, completely out of the blue. As soon as he wakes up, he starts gambling on multiple applications on his phone. He plays every evening, whether it's with friends or just random people. He started with no low stakes and has worked his way up to higher and higher stake games. He used to be interested in live music, art, gaming. He would hang out with friends when gambling wasn't involved. He had to move back in with his parents and stop buying weed, a 24/7 habit since he was 10 or 12. Not sure if that's related to his addiction to poker. He won't say why he has had to give up so much recently. Still, all he talks about is when he is going to the casino next. Story 4. Yay. My sister-in-law talks about influencers as if they are her friends. I can't have a conversation with her without her taking out her phone and showing me someone she followed before they got famous. It's exhausting and honestly awful to talk with her. Her husband, my brother, has suggested she see a counselor about it and believes she genuinely thinks in her head she knows these people. Edit. Guys, she's in her late 40s. Story 5. There are parents pimping their kids on OnlyFans, Patreon, etc. I watched 2 videos the other day exposing that people can buy exclusive picture sets of several 8 to 14-year-old girls who are prominent on TikTok via parent-run accounts. They showed the metrics, and their viewers and buyers were like 75% males between the ages of 23 to 47. Fucking insane. The pics were blurred in the exposure, of course, but the pics were said to be sexy bikini pics of little tween and teen girls. Disgusting shit. Story 6. My grandmother had a habit of cutting out the entire picture of women from every newspaper, book, or magazine that entered her house. She didn't want my grandfather looking at any other women. She got mentally jealous after having a breast cancer scare in the 60s or 70s, led to a full double mastectomy. We would be reading a popular science magazine sometime and be like, oh, I guess I didn't need to finish that article, because there would be a big hole there. Funniest thing happened about a month after she passed away. I was driving my grandfather home from somewhere, was stopped at a traffic light. A woman with a tube top on was crossing in front of the car and struggling to keep it up, which failed right in front of my car in full view of my grandfather. I couldn't help but laugh given the bigger picture of the situation. Story 7. Such a disturbing phenomena. Was in line at a touristy ice cream shop near me, and the line was probably 20 deep at that point. 3 women approached the counter and asked for samples of various kinds. It was their turn in line, so fine. Next thing you know, one whips herself up and starts making a live video of how they just discovered this place. They spent the next 2 minutes sucking their samples off mini spoons for their fans. People still waiting in line were just like, get out of the way. They never actually ordered anything. For me, these women epitomize idiocy of influencing. They never actually discover anything, but pretend they're the first person to experience things. So fake. Story 8. Shrines to people all. When I first met my now late significant other, my son wanted to be sure he wasn't a killer and protect me. We were literally neighbors, so one day, we walked to his house and my son said, "Let me see that you don't have pictures up of my mom with X's on them." He thought my son meant picture of his ex. Nope, my kid just wanted to be sure there was no shrine to me somewhere with my face crossed out by Sharpie markers. Story 9. Empty alcohol bottle collecting. I do have a small collection, but they're all unique for one reason or another. Specifically one that I'm really proud of was a new whiskey distillery that opened up where my parents live. I had no idea they existed and found them in a shop. Grabbed the bottle to try because hey, supporting local, try something new. If it's not great, so be it. It's not the end of the world. Batch number 1. Bottle number 1293 1500ths. A really small release, and batch 1. That just cool to me as a whiskey nerd. Story 10. My sister got into a relationship with a guy who was a fake businessman and drove around in hugely expensive cars. Except he didn't really seem to own them for long. His excuse was that he always needed to free up capital for his next investment. When they split up, he owed around $40K to car leasing companies, who he fooled into giving him flash cars on low deposit, high repayment lease plans that he'd inevitably then default on, and the car would be repossessed. I am reasonably well off, and I would tell her there was no way he was properly financing high-end Porsche and Mercedes cars, and that he was either defaulting on payments or he had some criminal side hustle. He just said I was jealous of his success. She eventually figured out I was right. Story 11. I had a roommate like this. He started watching all kinds of gore and pain Olympic videos. It gave him some sort of superiority complex since he became desensitized to gore, and he would always try to get me watch videos with him. Likely so I would be grossed out and he wouldn't, as some sort of alpha move or something. Fast forward a month and I found our other roommate lying in a pool of blood on the bathroom floor, barely conscious. Where was our super alpha Chad roommate at when our friend was dying in our bathroom? He ran out of the room and slapped at the neighbors, leaving me to keep our roommate awake while the paramedics showed up and eventually mop up all the blood. The one roommate lived, and last I heard is doing well. Story 12. I used to live in Japan, and we would semi-regularly end up at a mall for some food. Get food, break a bill, get change. In Japan, the lowest paper note is about $10, so all the coins would go toward ice cream. Then whatever I had left, I would take to the arcade and try to win the lewdest, crudest anime waifu figurine I could. One of my friends thought I actually wanted one and got me a Nami figure as a gift. Story 13. I have a cousin who engineered a massive split in the extended family by having her wedding at Disney World in Florida. She expected all the invitees to fly there from around the country and stay at the resort itself, and a bunch of family members opted out entirely because of how expensive it was. She ended up feuding even with the family members who went but stayed at cheaper places in the Orlando area. I was fortunate enough to be too distant a relation to get an invite in the first place. Story 14. A select group of people round by me also have formed a Cats Watch group. They all own pet scanners, and as soon as anyone dares to say they've noticed a cat they've not seen before, or sadly, a deceased one, they're running round to scan it for a chip, and if a live cat, foster it until their owners can be found. Half the time, it's just a poor, unsuspecting kitty who's dared to roam past their driveway, as outdoor-going cats do, and is snatched up and scanned. They often find the owners live a few doors down, I have never seen so many grown women fight over who's going to go and scan the corpse of a ran-over cat. It's like they feed on the grief of sad pet owners. Story 15. My neighbor likes to go around the neighborhood daily, taking photos of trash or any evidence of drug addicts, unhoused people being in the area, then post it in the neighbor hit FE groups to complain and make derogatory comments about the less fortunate. He ended up getting kicked out of the neighborhood group for his terrible comments, calling them rats, saying they should be shot, etc. So he made his own group where there are no bleeding hearts allowed and continues to post every day. Big red flag even if he isn't hurting anyone. He lives in the hood, same as all of us, but somehow thinks he's so much better than everyone.